Hello, and welcome to our tutorial series, Preparing to File Forms 1099. My name is Cathy Burns, and in our first video, Getting Started, we reviewed the three focus areas that need to be reported on Forms 1099: vendor type, payment method, and payment type. In this video, I'm going to guide you through the steps of setting up QuickBooks Online to streamline the production of your 1099s. If you use the desktop version of QuickBooks, you'll want to watch our video for QuickBooks Desktop, and you can find a link to that video in the description below. Okay, let's get started. QuickBooks programming is designed specifically for 1099 miscellaneous and 1099 NEC forms. Using the setup wizard and the proper vendor information setup during the year will greatly reduce the time and stress of processing 1099s on a timely basis. All versions of QuickBooks Online now include 1099 processing. The first step in setup is an ongoing procedure when adding new vendors during the year that you know to be eligible for receiving 1099s. I'm now going to navigate to the vendor screen to show you how to add a new vendor. We're going to go to Get Paid and Pay, and then Vendors. And we'll let that screen load up. Okay, you'll notice here is your list of vendors. And of course, any of them that you have here, you can edit from here. But we're going to go up here into the right-hand corner and press this New Vendor button. So pictured here is the opening screen for new vendors. Notice down here on the lower right of the form is the field business ID number / social security number. This is where you can enter the taxpayer identification number that your vendor provided to you on the W-9. Below this input field is a checkbox for track payments for 1099. Check this box without regard to how much you've paid the vendor this year in total payments, unless the vendor falls within one of the exemptions discussed earlier, such as the vendor is a corporation, a tax-exempt organization, etc. Or if you know that the only type of payments made to this vendor are always exempt from reporting, such as a utility company or a storage company, do not check this box. If you maintain the practice all during the year of setting up your vendors this way, it will make your vendor review at year end much quicker. And from my experience, obtaining a vendor's tax ID number before your work commences and payments are made by requesting them to complete a W-9 is almost always easier than after the fact and during year-end processing. So now that we've learned how to set up a new vendor with the correct 1099 information, we're going to leave this screen and we are going to go to the general setup for 1099 processing. You will notice here in the vendor page where we went before, in the upper right corner, there is a drop down and a button that says Prepare 1099s. You do not need to use the drop down. Simply click on Prepare 1099s. Do not be concerned because you are not launching into the full processing of 1099s. We're just going to be editing vendors and payments in preparation for year-end processing. You're going to begin a step-by-step procedure that will set up the initial framework that allows QuickBooks Online to quickly pull 1099 data at year end. Actually, this setup procedure is best used during the early part of the year. As you proceed in the steps, you can save your work and return at a later time if necessary. So I'm going to go ahead and press this button, Prepare 1099s. So this first screen is an informational screen with some marketing information, and there is some useful information here. In the middle of this screen right here, you'll notice the deadline for if you choose to have QuickBooks Online file and e-file your returns for you, this deadline right here is important to note because you have to get them submitted before that in order to have them timely filed by QuickBooks Online. If you're going to prepare and print them yourself and would like to order the forms through QuickBooks, there is a link to do that here. Again, you don't need to do that now, but closer toward the end of the year when you're ready to actually prepare and file your forms. There's also some frequently asked questions down here that you may find useful. For now, we're simply going to click on Let's Get Started and proceed to step 1. So the first step in the setup that opens is Review Your Company Info. Note this graph on the left-hand side. This will indicate your progress as you move through the setup. The information on this page will be used to populate that portion of the 1099 miscellaneous or NEC that contains your company's information. You need to review it to be sure that you have all the necessary information for the preparation of the 1099s. If you correct anything here, it will correct it in your company settings as well. So you'll notice on this one, we're missing a phone number. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that here and hit save. And we're also missing our company's tax ID. So I'll go ahead and enter that. And then I'm going to hit save and next. Step 2 involves categorizing payments to contractors or 1099 vendors. Please note that although QuickBooks Online emphasizes contractors throughout their 1099 setup, many 1099 payments are not just made to contractors. It's better to think of it as your vendors. On this page, mark all of the boxes that you will be utilizing when you prepare your 1099s. Think back to our earlier discussions on the meanings and descriptions of the different 1099 boxes and select those that are appropriate, and we will begin mapping these boxes to specific general ledger accounts in your chart of accounts. So for example, in this one, we know that we have some people that are going to get a 1099 NEC because we have some vendors who qualify under that. So we're going to check this box, and then a drop-down window appears here for you. And this basically contains all of your chart of accounts. And so QuickBooks Online wants you to go down and select the accounts where you have put your payments to your NEC vendors. So for this client, I'm going to be choosing computer repairs, building repairs, bookkeeper, and then I'll scroll down some more, and we will also choose legal and professional fees and these maintenance and repairs. And then once I've selected those, it tells me over here which ones I've selected. And then I'm also can go, well, I've paid some rents, so I can click on the rents, and then I can scroll down and pick the appropriate rental categories where I think I put my rent payments. And it will not let you select boxes that you or accounts that you've already selected for other 1099 areas. And then if any of these apply to you, which we discussed in our first video, you could do the same thing here as you go down the screen. When you're done entering the information on this page, click Next. Please note that if you add to your chart of accounts after you initially set up this page, you will need to return and update your work. So if you're working on this say in March or April, and then you've added a new account to track your subcontractors' payments, you'll have to come back to this setup screen and choose that account under here. So we'll go ahead and click next. Step 3 requires a review of your contractors and vendors' information. A report is shown with the information needed in the payee section of your company's 1099s. If a vendor's information is incomplete or requires revision, you can click on Edit here or you can click on the vendor name. When you do so, a small window opens to the side, allowing for direct data entry or revision. So if we click here, then we can put in, if necessary, the information that needs to be updated, and it will also update in your vendor record. So if you're missing an EIN or an address, you could input that here. And here it's telling us that we do not have a valid EIN. So we'll try to make up another one and see if that works for these purposes. And then we'll hit save. If you need to add a vendor that you don't see here because you realize maybe that you forgot to click that 1099 box in the vendor field, you can select this button here, add from the vendor list, and then you can click on the vendors that you believe you may need to add that were missed in your original vendor setup. And you can click save, click those here, and now it will show you, well, you've added Jenny and you've added Pam, but you're missing their tax ID or what have you. And then from here, again, you can click edit and add, picking the correct contractor type and the information as necessary. When you've reviewed this list and added and edited any vendors that you need to, you can go ahead and click save. We're going to click save and finish later because we are finished now with the initial QuickBooks Online 1099 setup. The next steps are only performed at year end when you are actually processing the forms to file. So congratulations, we have finished. All right, that wraps up our walkthrough of setting up QuickBooks Online for streamlined processing of Forms 1099. Thank you so much for watching.